Who would have thought that Nayef Aguerd would have been doing such great things in La Liga that both Barcelona and Real Madrid would have been interested? There was really interesting comment from the club over the last few days, which was, you can forget it. Forget that we're going to take silly money for him now. We're not going to sell him on the cheap, because there was definitely a point during the summer where, had anybody who come in with anything remotely 15 to 20 million, the club would have taken it. There's no doubt about it. And that's quite a climb down for someone that's cost 30 million. And I think there's been a little bit of deflection with him, because I think Lopetegui and Tim Steiten's camps have both been using Aguerd as a stick to beat each other with. They basically, Lopetegui's camp saying the reason that he was allowed to go in the summer is because of Steiten, and basically Steiten's camp are blaming it on Lopetegui. The truth of the matter is that Aguerd had been angling to get out of West Ham for quite some time. And there was even suggestion that before the African Cup of Nations, that he was trying to cover himself and not get injured before the African Cup of Nations. He was not training well. There was too many rumours coming out from at that particular time from the training ground. And also, let's not forget that he changed his agent as well. Changed his agent to try and get a transfer. And I think one of the things was, he was quite certain that one of the big clubs would come in for him, that either Saudi club would come in with big money for him, or one of the Bundesliga giants. And pretty much all that happened towards the end, none of those big things happened. No big Saudi interest came in. So these things he was expecting to happen. And by the end, there was a bid from Galatasaray, a loan bid from Wolfsburg or Werder Bremen, can't remember which one. And then Real Sociedad came in at the end. So I don't just think it was, he had unrealistic expectations, but maybe they weren't. Maybe he was so confident in his own ability that he's gone to the Liga and he's proven himself. And what has turned out to be a bloody good loan signing, they don't always work out, do they? But actually, he's gone out there, maybe would have accepted 15 to 20. He's now looking like the player who we spent £30 million on, which begs the question, with a new manager, Gio, with a 3 at the back system, and with some of Europe's top clubs sniffing around, who has been, it's not conjecture, he's been one of the best defenders in La Liga this season. We might have a bit of a decision on our hands, mate.
I think it's an easy one as far as I'm concerned. I'd cash in every day and all day long. I understand. I feel like I'm going to be in the minority here. I understand why people would give another opportunity, and like you said, with a back three, because we're probably going to see more of the ball under Graham Potter, and he'd certainly suit that. I've got no concerns over his ability with the ball at his feet. I think he was brilliant at it. I think he was fast, but I don't think he's suited the Premier League, and that opinion's still valid, whether it's under Moyes, Lopetegui, or Graham Potter. I still think he'll struggle with the Premier League. And B, I don't like his attitude that he had towards the Football Cup before we got rid of him in the summer. Practically refused to play one game. Now, I understand why anybody has a strong desire to play for the country. I completely get it. I'm surprised more players don't do it on the eve of a big tournament. Say, well, Gaffer, I'm not sure about this one, because one bag knock and I'm out for a tournament. This could be something historical. Morocco could go on and win the African Cup of Nations, and I'm back in London injured. I don't want to miss out. I understand it. But that was not what happened. He didn't want to play for West Ham. And I just can't get over that attitude he had towards the club. The African Cup of Nations is coming up again. What's he going to do then? Is he going to do the same thing, or is he going to knuckle down? And well, I've only got the evidence of what happened previously, which would suggest that his priority will be Morocco. And like I said, I do get it. I've always, Gonzo back me up, and those subscribers will know, I've always defended players playing international football. I think the World Cup next year will be the pinnacle of anyone's career. If you can represent your country at a World Cup, I think you'll struggle to better it, unless you might win the Premier League or the Champions League or something. But that should be the best thing you'll ever do. Go play for your country at a World Cup. But I've not seen him play for Real Sociedad. I'm not going to pretend I watch him. I don't. But when I started doing the loan reports on Patreon earlier this season, Nayef Aguerd is purely data-led. I've not seen him play. I'm not going to pretend to watch Spanish football. So in terms of eye test, there isn't any. But earlier in the season, I knew how Freddie Potts was getting on, because I've seen what Portsmouth fans said. I knew George Earthy was injured. I would see what that unlikable Huddersfield manager was saying about Kyle and Marshall. But with Aguerd, it was purely data. So I'd go on and see he played 90 minutes. I could see how much tackles he's made, interceptions, clearances. His who scored rating, which is purely data, was very high. And I thought, hang on a minute, this is looking like good performances here. There were some games he was demanded a match in terms of data. And I think for the centre-back, judging someone through numbers isn't always the worst idea in the world. If they're making clearances and interceptions, they're probably going to continue making it. But Real Sociedad were picking up clean sheets. Then the Europa League would come round and he would be rested. I think that's an indicator that you're a key player at that club when he's taking 3 or 4 players out, and Aguerd is one of them, but he's straight back into the team the next game. Suggests important player for Real Sociedad. And now, obviously, the last month or so, there's all these glowing reports coming out, and he's been linked to Barcelona and Real Madrid. I wasn't surprised because the data was suggesting he was one of the best performing centre-backs in La Liga. Firstly, well done, West Ham, because I'm the first one to criticise them for doing crap loans like Callum Marshall to West Brom. They've absolutely smashed this. Everything West Ham wanted out of a loan move for Aguerd has happened. Go there, get into the team, rediscover your form, show everybody how good a centre-back you are, get your market value up, get clubs interested in you. You spoke about how he wanted a move, and a couple of clubs came in, but not really much. He won't have that problem this summer. There will be a lot of clubs coming for him now. So everything West Ham wanted out the loan move has happened so far. Everything Nayef Aguerd wanted out the loan move has happened so far. We've created a situation, and I think we have to capitalize on that. And for me, that's selling him, cashing in, maybe not making a profit, but getting your money back and having a significant amount of money for the summer transfer window for the player who isn't part of Graham Potter's squad. Graham Potter won't miss him. You can't miss what you don't have, right? Potter can't miss him. He'll just get a 25 million cash injection into his summer kitty for a player who hasn't played a minute under him. Of course, it could be a mistake. Maybe he would come back and be one of our best centre-backs, but I would suggest there's no evidence for that. I'd also suggest there's evidence he'd come back and struggle in the Premier League. His value would depreciate, less clubs want him, etc. And we're in the situation we were 12 months ago. Don't do that. I'd sell him, move on. And listen, some players are just better in certain leagues. They suit certain leagues. When Aguerd went to Spain, I think most West Ham fans thought he'll suit that football. Technically, he's a very, very good player. He'll suit that. Spanish football ain't bombarding you in the air with long balls or anything like that. So he'll suit what they do over there. And I think that's been proven. I think the best thing for him is to stay in Spain. He's smashing it out there. Best thing for West Ham, cash in.
I don't think you'll be as on your own as you think, because certainly when I mentioned him at the end of one of the videos recently, one of the first comments on the video was somebody saying he can't do it in the Premier League. So I think you won't be on your own.
I think we'll be in the minority. I think most people will give him a second chance at West Ham.
Yeah, I certainly would be one of them. I think what you've got to decide for yourself is whether, like yourself, you think he struggled in the Premier League, or whether he struggled under David Moyes' tactics. If you think he can struggle in the Premier League, then obviously why would you want him back? I think that was a struggle for almost anyone, apart from, funny enough, someone like Kurt Zouma was sort of all right, but, he sort of thrived there, but Kurt Zouma wouldn't be able to play in anyone else's tactics. I think almost the opposite of Aguerd. I think Aguerd couldn't play in those tactics. I do think that we'd see a very, very different player under Graham Potter. It's really for him to decide, because in many respects, he's got the ultimate opportunity to do his due diligence, which you just don't get when you're bringing someone from outside the club. So he can obviously say to everybody that's in around, coaches, there'll be people that's still there, people in the building, Mabel, the tea lady, and all the rest
Xavi
of it.
Valero is going to be there until he dies.
He absolutely. He might say, well, he can catch a good ball. Yeah.
You can ask him about Pablo Zabaleta if you want.
Yeah, absolutely. So you will be able to ask, what is this guy like? So immediately, if it turns out that he is a bad egg, and people say he's a pain in the arse around the training ground, I don't think he is that, by the way, because even when he wanted out, you look at any of the footage from the training ground, you look at us from pre-season, because he spent all pre-season with us and stuff like that. Yeah. He looked a happy bunny.
He looked good during pre-season.
Yeah. He looks happy to be around. He doesn't see, it's not like he's falling out with people and stuff like that. I just think he wanted to leave. And I do. There is an element of me which whilst I don't want to be seen to be criticising everything David Moyes did, and far from it, there were certain people that didn't get on with Moyesy. There's no doubt about that. He wasn't not quite in Lopetegui's league in that sense, where he was having fisticuffs. But I do wonder if it just was he just couldn't play under him. I do wonder with this if Potter might say, well, actually, I'm going to have a look at him. Let's get him back for pre-season. And I wonder if that might be, because I think that's probably the wise thing to do. Because then you're not committing to a decision, are you? You're not saying, right, okay, let's sell him before he even arrives for pre-season training. And that's unlikely anyway, because you've got to wait for the window to open and they sort of overlap. So I do wonder if there might be a situation where Potter gets him back, which is really the question. Can I have him as my left-sided centre-back? And we've already shown. I never like it when people just put 11 players in there. So where's he going to play? Well, anyone's going to play anywhere because you get injuries throughout the season. So it doesn't really matter if you think Todibo is right centre back or Wan-Bissaka is going to be right centre back. You need more than 3 defenders. But even so, if we suggest that maybe Todibo is, Kilman's going to stay central, which I think he looks good there really. You need that left centre back who's. And I do think Kilman can play there as well, by the way. I think he's skillful. I think he can take the ball forward. But in terms of that outright pace, I think, legs to get him down the pitch. There were times actually during the end of Aguerd, a couple of times he got shoehorned at the end of games in at left back. And I remember saying it on a video last season. He played at left back for the second half of the game. I said to you in a video, he looked like our best left back. You've got that hybrid role, that left-sided centre back is a little bit left backish under Potter, maybe. So I think, I'm not adverse to it, and I do wonder if he thinks he's got a player there, we bring a player back. It's one less player that we've got to go and buy. It's win-win though. It is win-win because either one happens. He looks at it or he does his due diligence and maybe he says to people at the training ground, "What's Nayef Aguerd like?" And they say he's a little shit. Okay, we'll get rid of him. Then we get the money, as you say. Even if we don't get our money back, even 25 million is good, Gio, bearing in mind we got him for 30. We won the Conference League, and I think that's fine.
The only thing I will add, first of all, you got this guy to ask around the training ground. You just ask him what's he like, and I think Potter will get an honest answer from Noble. In regards to about Moyes' tactics, whilst I agree, I do think, and I appreciate, I already know the counter arguments here. There's been times under Potter we've seen some very pragmatic football where we have been defensive, solid. Let's see this out and go on the counter attack. And I know what the counter arguments are, which is it's not his team. We've got injuries and whatnot. And I do get it and I do agree. But I do also think post summer transfer window, we will still see some performances under Potter where we will take a pragmatic approach and we will be doing more defending than attacking. But that's what I like about him. I like the fact that he doesn't have one glove fits all, which is what I've been critical of certain managers.
We don't have a sign fits all. What are you saying?
Well, we don't have that anymore. We've got a Potter who will mix up depending on who he's playing, and he will change it in game. He can be proactive as well as reactive, and I like it a lot. But I do think there will be games next season where we will come out, we will be happy to sit on the edge of our box and play on the counter attack, and then you might see some resemblance of Moyes' tactics. And as you suggest, Aguerd struggled under them to some extent. I just think we've created a perfect storm with Aguerd this season. And I think we should capitalise on it and let Potter bring in his own player rather than have to use someone that we brought in a couple of seasons ago and has had a rocky time at West Ham.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to say, actually, I would hope that Potter continues to be a pragmatist. I like it. I like it. I don't mind that. I've never had that problem if David Moyes was
horses for courses.
Yeah, absolutely.
Horses for courses.
Yeah,
I think. Do I want to see it at home to
Sheffield United?
Yeah, no, I do not. Right, but away to Man City. Well, yes, if it works, and yes, I do. It doesn't bother as long as you retain. I think some people see defensive football as we sit back and don't try and attack, but actually you can play defensive football, but as long as you retain that attacking threat. So when you do get the ball, Bowen, Kudus, and your new striker, whoever it is on the boom, forward would go. Like against Chelsea, I felt when we got it, we possessed a bit of a threat. And, Villa away, we were pretty defensive at times, FA Cup game, but when we got it, bang, Somerville, Kudus, they were off. That's when I don't mind defensive football. When you have that, there's a plan and there's an intent to attack when you have the ball. that's when I don't mind it. It's when you get in, hoof it, and stay on the edge of the 18-yarder. That's when I've got a problem with defensive football.
There you go. Thanks, Gio. Appreciate that, mate. And we're going to love you and leave you now. Apologies for the hard edit. Believe it or not, during the middle of the video, my old man called. So you've got this bang hard edit, which completely interrupted Gio in the middle of his flow. We'll catch up with you tomorrow.